So you might be thinking to yourself, Keegan, that's not a Lamborghini, that's an SUV. Well, you're kind of right, but it is a Lamborghini. So just like a lot of other automotive manufacturers, Lamborghini decided it was time that they put out a super SUV.
So, Lamborghini released the first concept of the Urus back in 2012 at the Beijing Auto Show. Nearly half a decade later, Lamborghini released an almost production-ready version of the Urus.
But come on, Darren, this isn't a history lesson, so let's talk numbers. This car launches you 0 to 100 in 3.6 seconds from its 641 horsepower, 4-liter twin-turbo V8 pushing out 850 Nm of torque. So the Lamborghini Urus uses Audi's MLB Evo platform, which is used on the Q7, Q8, Bentley Bentayga, Porsche Cayenne, and more. And if you want to buy the Lamborghini Urus, you better be ready to reach deep in your pockets. This car has a base MSRP of $250,000 Canadian before options. That's right, that's almost 3 sheets of plywood.
Now, a lot of people have their own gripes with the Lamborghini Urus, saying that it's a rebodied Q8, or that Lamborghini is diluting its brand with an SUV. However, let's take a tour and you can decide for yourself.
Upon the release of the Lamborghini Urus, this car had the largest brakes in the automotive industry. These front discs are 17.32 inches and the rear are 14.57 inches. These are carbon ceramic as well, so it's going to be quite the expensive brake job. Now, a common theme, just like every other Lamborghini, are the hexagonal shapes throughout the car. Now you can see them in the front grille, the mirrors are on the side of the car, on the inside, they are everywhere. Now you can see the shape of the front bumper and the hood here is very Lamborghini Aventador-esque, which is kind of what that car resembles. And it also has this massive front camera for the bird's eye vision and also the 360 view camera. Now, just like the concept they released back at the 2012 Beijing Motor Show, this car is very similar to the original concept design, but you can see it still carries that Lamborghini shape. It still looks like a Lamborghini, feels like a Lamborghini. Now, though this still does carry the Lamborghini classic shape, they did have to sacrifice a bit of trunk space to give it that coupe-like shape, rather than a big, clunky SUV. Take a listen how this V8 sounds. So like most other brands under the Volkswagen branch, which includes Lamborghini, Porsche, Bugatti, they always have keys just like the other regular cars, like the Audis, like the Volkswagens. And we can see that here with the Lamborghini Aventador SV Roadster key and my 2007 Volkswagen Passat key. They're almost identical. But finally, with the Lamborghini Urus, Lamborghini decided to change that. And here we have a Lamborghini Urus shaped key. So looking at the interior of the Lamborghini Urus, you can see a lot of Audi in here. The Audi turning stalks, the Audi screen, the Audi buttons. There's a lot of Audi. Not to put any shame on Audi, because it is a great manufacturer, but a Lamborghini should be a bit more special in my opinion. But it does carry the hexagon shapes of the entire interior, including the vents, on the dash, everywhere. It also has 6 different driving modes right here, including Strada, Sport, Corsa, Sabia, Terra, and Niva. So let's talk about the different driving modes. There's Strada, which is your regular street driving mode. It's a quiet exhaust, soft suspension, it's really comfortable. And then there's Sport, which tightens up the suspension a little bit. You can hear the exhaust open up a bit. And there's Corsa, which is track mode for your SUV, funny enough. But in Corsa, the exhaust opens up, the suspension tightens up, the steering tightens up. It's a more sporty vehicle. And there's Sabia. Sabia is like your sand mode for off-roading in the dunes, because a lot of these cars are probably going to the Middle East. And then there's Terra. Terra is your just regular off-road mode because this is an SUV at the end of the day, and that's what they were designed for. And there's Neve, which is your snow mode, because these are SUVs that will most likely be driven in the winter. Now the fit and finish of the Lamborghini Urus is exactly what you'd expect from like Lamborghini or Audi, which this car is based off of. But this car looks very reminiscent of the new Huracan Evo. It almost looks like an expanded version of it. It's got the stitching of the hexagons in the seats, just like the Huracan Evo. And you know what? It is a great interior overall. Now an issue with the driving modes is, say you're in sport mode and you want to go back to Strada. Instead of being able to push the lever up, you have to sort all the way through the different modes to finally get back to Strada. Now, it's not that big of an issue, but I wish Lamborghini would have thought of something like that when they were building this car.
To be honest, the back seats of the Urus is nothing special. However, there is the panoramic sunroof. Inside the back, there's a lot of stuff that are from Audi, such as the climate control, the buttons, the windows, and everything else. So, when it comes to the comfort of the back seats, as Keegan mentioned earlier, the sloped ceiling doesn't really affect the comfort of the car. So, the trunk of the Urus isn't actually a trunk, but it's technically a hatchback. However, we believe that there's a fair amount of room for everyday use.
So after going over the car, let's go take it for a spin. Here we go. We're about to go drive the Lamborghini Urus. This thing is a it's kind of weird the way the SUV market has gone, because like SUVs kind of started back in like the 50s and the 60s and then kind of built its way up. And in the 80s and 90s it kind of started getting really popular because it was a all-terrain sporty, not sporty, but like all-terrain practical vehicle. In the last decade, the luxury and performance SUVs have just gone crazy. Like just absurd. We have this, a 640 horsepower twin turbo V8 Lamborghini SUV. But this isn't actually the first Lamborghini SUV. The first one was back in the 80s, 1986, the LM002. And now we're in this, the Lamborghini Urus. It kind of competes with like the Cullinan, the Bentley Bentayga, the Audi RS Q8, which, I mean, this basically is an Audi RS Q8. I've been actually really excited to review this car because I got to ride in one of the first ones that came to Canada back a couple of years ago, like a press car. And now, at the time I couldn't even drive yet. Now that I'm old enough to actually drive, I get to really experience this one, which I'm excited for. I really want to see how well this thing handles, like if it drives like a true Lamborghini or it's just a luxury SUV kind of thing.
The inside of this car is obviously really nice and luxurious, but the feel of it is kind of just like a normal SUV, you know what I mean? Like nothing, like it's not like you're in a supercar. It doesn't give off that vibe, you know what I mean? It feels like I'm just in a normal SUV.
Yeah, I can completely understand that. Like, you know, I work at a body shop and we get lots of new Audis, BMWs and all that, and it does feel just sort of like a new Audi Q8, but at the same time, like, this isn't necessarily going for pure sportiness. Like, they do have to make it comfortable and luxurious, so I do understand the reasoning behind it, but
yeah,
maybe there should be a bit more to it, being it's a Lamborghini. They really did fall short on really changing it from the Audi Q8 or the RS Q8. Like, it does feel like that, but I mean, so speaking of, like, say the Audi RS Q8, that's it's basically the same car. It's got the same platform, same engine. It's just a bit detuned from the Lamborghini Urus, but you're basically getting almost the same car for half the cost. So again, that kind of ties into, like, is this worth a base MSRP of $250,000? I don't know. So we're in Strada mode right now. Let's put it into Corsa and you can hear the exhaust valves open up. You can hear when it goes into Corsa. And then also on the dash here, like a power and torque display comes up so you can see how much power you're outputting on your different RPM. So soon, Ferrari is actually going to be competing with the Urus because they're releasing their Puro Sangue, even though Ferrari CEO said they would never release an SUV, and Enzo Ferrari would roll in his grave if he released an SUV, but they're going for it anyways, and yeah, it's called the Puro Sangue. We don't know much about the car, but
how do you pronounce it?
Puro Sangue.
You definitely butchered that.
No.
And like, with this car, what's it called? Urus?
Lamborghini Urus.
I'm just calling it Urus.
No, you gotta call it Urus.
That's too much work.
So right now we're in Strada mode. There's Sport, Corsa, Sabia, Terra, Neve. So Strada is like your regular driving mode. Then we can put it into Sport, which kind of stiffens up the suspension, drops gears a little bit, you know, makes it a bit sportier. And there's Corsa, and we can take a listen to this exhaust. Hear that kick in, and the pops. Damn. Just pops. It's popcorn back there. The exhaust on this thing sounds amazing, even for a twin turbo V8. Like, it sounds killer. So yeah, this thing is sweet to drive. And then there's Sabia, which is sand mode, and there's Terra, which is just like your off-road mode, and then there's Neve, which is your snow mode. So this car has a total of 6 different options, driving modes, which is pretty cool. So they did think of a lot of things to put in this car, but yeah, again, are those options right there and that exhaust worth $250,000 base MSRP? I don't know. Thank you for watching. If you like this review, go check out others on our channel. Like, comment, subscribe, follow our TikTok and Instagram @CarCombine, and see you later.